Have you ever watched someone who grew up in the 80s handle things falling apart? The power goes out, the plan dies, the phone hits 2% and shuts off, and somehow they get quieter, not louder. They just deal with it. There is a reason for that, and it has nothing to do with luck. Picture a 9-year-old on a summer morning in 1985. She finishes breakfast, walks out the front door, and nobody asks where she is going. No phone. No way to reach her for the next 10 hours. The only rule is be home when the streetlights come on. If you grew up like this, people now call it nostalgia, a simpler time. But what happened back then was not just a memory, it was a kind of training. Stay with me. Because here is the thing nobody says out loud. That decade did not just hand you good memories. It built something into you, quietly, year after year. Today we are going to look at the psychology of people who grew up in the 1980s, and why what looks like nostalgia is actually the blueprint of how you still survive. They call it longing for the past. I think it is you recognizing the place that made you. Let us start with why those years feel so loud in your head. You can probably still smell the inside of a specific car. Hear a screen door slam a specific way. Feel the weird heat of a sidewalk through cheap sneakers in July. There is a real reason for this, and it is not just that you are getting older. Psychologists call it the reminiscence bump. The memories we form roughly between 10 and 25 years old stay sharper and come back easier than memories from any other stretch of life. It is the window when your identity is still wet cement. So no, you are not imagining it. Those years really did burn brighter than the ones that came after. But here's where it gets interesting. Most people stop right there. They decide the 80s feel special only because their brain filed those years in the good drawer and slammed it shut. That is half the story. The other half is the part nobody talks about. The world you were filed in was doing something to you the entire time, shaping you. And it did not stop when the decade ended. Start with the simplest fact of that childhood. You were alone a lot, not lonely. Alone, whole afternoons with no adult watching, no schedule, no app deciding what came next. You knocked on a friend's door, and if nobody answered, you just figured out the rest of the day yourself. You built a fort. You rode somewhere you were probably not supposed to go. You came home filthy with no record of where you had been, because none existed. That sounds like nothing. It was everything. A research psychologist named Peter Gray has spent years studying what he calls free play, the unsupervised kind, the kind with no coach, no referee, no parent hovering at the edge of the grass. And his conclusion is simple and a little uncomfortable. That kind of play is exactly where children learn to solve their own problems. Think about it. When the kickball game collapses into an argument and there is no adult anywhere to settle it, you have two options: work it out, or the game is over. So you learn to negotiate. You learn to read a face before someone speaks. You learn, deep in your body, that you are the one who fixes this. Nobody is coming to fix it for you. And it went deeper than arguments. You learned a whole silent language out there. Whose house had snacks, and whose mom would send you home. Which kid would cover for you, and which one would fold the second a parent raised their voice. How far you could push a dare before someone actually got hurt. Nobody taught you any of that. You ran the experiment yourself, 100 times, with real consequences and no undo button. That is a kind of social intelligence you cannot download. There is a term for the muscle this builds: internal locus of control. It is the quiet, bone-deep belief that your choices actually move things. That you are not just weather happening to you, but a hand on the wheel. Kids who spend years solving their own small disasters tend to grow that belief like a callus. You did not learn it from a poster on a classroom wall. You learned it on a sidewalk with a scraped knee, with nobody coming. Does that not ring true? And then there was the waiting. So much waiting. You wanted a song, so you sat cross-legged by the radio with your finger trembling over the record button, praying the DJ would shut up before the first note. You wanted a show, you waited a whole week, and if you missed it, it was simply gone. You wanted to know a fact. You opened a book that weighed more than a cat. You took a photo and waited 2 weeks to find out half the roll was your own thumb. Nothing was instant. Nothing. So you got good at the gap, that tender, restless space between wanting something and getting it. And here is what matters. That gap is exactly where patience is born. It is where you learn that the wanting will not kill you. That good things have a cost measured in time. Most people now never have to sit in that space at all. They tap, and it appears. You spent a childhood in the gap. You live there comfortably. They cannot stand it for 10 seconds. Boredom finished the job. Those long, flat, empty stretches where there was genuinely nothing to do and nobody to do it with. You hated them at the time. You lay on the carpet and announced to the ceiling that you were dying. But your mind, with absolutely nowhere to go, turned inward and started to build. Stories, plans, whole imaginary countries in the dirt behind the garage. You know that feeling, right? The reason your inner world runs so strangely deep might simply be that it had 1,000 empty afternoons to grow in. We hand a child a glowing screen the second they go quiet now. You never got that mercy. And the lack of it, strange as it sounds, is exactly what made you. But here is the part that explains the most. And it is not all warm and gold. When you grow up handling everything yourself, you absorb a second lesson hiding underneath all the good ones. You learn, without anyone ever saying it, that needing help is not really an option. That the streetlights are not going to come out and find you. So you grow into the kind of adult who carries it alone, who says I'm fine before anyone has even asked, who would honestly rather quietly struggle for a month than be a burden on someone for 30 seconds. Sound familiar? That same self-reliance that makes you steady when everything is on fire can quietly harden into a wall. It is the gift and the bill, and they are attached to the exact same childhood. Sociologists have a name for this, the way a shared time and place stamps an entire group of people with the same instincts. Generational identity. You are not just a person who happens to remember the 80s fondly. You are in part made out of them. The independence is real, so is the particular loneliness it can leave behind, and maybe that is not entirely fair to a 9-year-old who just wanted to ride her bike. But it is real. Watch how all of this leaks into your life right now, decades later. You read the manual. You do not ask for directions until the situation is genuinely hopeless. You try to fix the leaking thing yourself at midnight before you will ever call a professional. You feel a small, private contempt for grown adults who cannot entertain themselves for an afternoon. You distrust anything that comes too easy, too fast, too free. None of that is random personality. That is a 9-year-old with a house key on a shoelace, still running the show from somewhere inside you. So here is what I actually want you to hear. There is nothing wrong with you. You are not stuck in the past. You are not just a sentimental person clutching at a decade that is long gone. The ache you feel when an old song comes on out of nowhere is not weakness, and it is not even really about the 80s at all. It is your nervous system recognizing the place that built you, the place where you learned to find your own way home in the dark, with no map, no signal, and no one tracking your steps. That child walking out the door with no phone and no plan, she was not neglected. She was being handed something most kids today will never receive. The street lights were the only signal she ever got. And across 10,000 summer evenings, slowly she stopped needing them. She became her own streetlight, her own clock, her own way back. That is what you are carrying now, not nostalgia, a spine. When the world goes dark for the people around you, you are the one who already knows the walk home, because you have done it 1,000 times completely alone. The decade that raised you is gone. The streets are quieter. The doors stay locked, but the thing it built in you did not pack up and leave when the 80s ended. It is still in there. It is the calm in the crisis. It is the hand on the wheel. It is you. So I want to hear from you. Drop one single sound in the comments that sends you straight back there. The screen door, the dial tone, the electric buzz of a streetlight flickering on at dusk. And tell me the one rule from your childhood that you never realized was quietly shaping you the whole time. I read every single one of them. And if any part of this felt like it was written about you, sit with that for 1 second before you scroll away. You were not raised in a simpler time. You were raised in a harder one, and it handed you a strength you forgot to even notice you had. Subscribe to keep decoding yourself, and I'll see you in the next one.